Sports presents Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites. This one, I like them all, but this one is interesting because, again, it was sparked from something other than myself, right? It's like that's when all the cool stuff happens, right? I always talk about being a lifelong learner and being a better listener, right? My dad used to always say, people will tell you 90% of what you need to know if you just listen. So I was listening to Andrew Rogers. Give him a follow at Andrew Rogers CC yesterday. And he was saying, he wasn't playing devil's advocate, but he was hypothetically speaking. This was on the heels of Jordy Ball talking about coming home and family and kind of the importance that meant to her outside of sports. And I said, it made me think of a previous episode that I had on Benning Bites a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just a week ago, where I said, I just get the sense that this staff is so invested in the in-state guys, it's got to be a two-way street. It may be difficult to come back. Let's say you want to transfer back home, or you do get homesick, or family is important and you want to get back to your roots, where you better have a good story to tell, because I feel like the staff will have exhausted all options the first time around. And it was a little deeper than that, but I'm not saying, hey, man, you better choose Nebraska on the way out or you're not going to get them at all. That wasn't the issue at all. It was more to talk about the foundation that they were trying to lay on the way out the door before you actually hit that trust level, right, that faith level. Because Coach Rhule said something to me the other day, and it stuck with me. We were talking about a lot of him. Some of it was not very important. Some of it was just me being emotional. Some of it was important. But one thing that he said that kind of stuck with me, he said, I want this to be a different kind of place. This place has been so toxic over the last handful of years that if you're an adult, you're afraid to believe because it hasn't gone the way that you've wanted it to over the last 20 years. And if you're a young person, i.e. a prospective student athlete, you don't want to believe just out of defiance because it's never happened for you during your lifetime. And I'm not sure which he'd rather try to talk to, the adults or the student athletes, but it did get me thinking. Are we so ingrained into putting one foot in front of the other that we've lost the inability to take that leap of faith, right, to just believe? Right? Because you know what faith is. Faith is seeing without, or believing without yet seeing. Like when you hit your head on that pillow at night, it's because you said so, not because you've seen. And I was having this conversation out loud. And Andrew said something yesterday that was totally a 180. He said, I look at it the other way. What if he's trying to build something so family-oriented, so because we are close to one another, it makes it very difficult for you to want to leave, where you don't even want to contemplate it because it's so good while you're here. You just want to be a part of that family structure. Again, on the heels of Jordy Ball and kind of what she was saying. And even further, what I've talked about with what I felt like the athletic department was trying to build to offset the transfer portal that I've been talking about the last couple of years, with diversifying the staff, the food you eat, the new stadium facilities, how it's more like home, and wanting barbershops and places to get massages and salt tanks, where it's just such an environment where you're like, you know what, we've got it pretty good here. And they are for me. They have my best interest at heart. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't believe the grass is going to be greener when I hit the transfer portal. And that's not to say, ladies and gentlemen, that all transfers come from selfish motives, because they don't. What I'm trying to say is the closer you get it to like family, the more you're apt to give family the benefit of the doubt. Hey, that's my sister. You guys know, or Nah, that's just how my brother is. You guys get it. Or, my mom and dad. That's just, how grandma is. Where they get some grace, right? The benefit of the doubt because you know how they are and you know that they're for you. What if that is the culture that he's trying to build, where it's such that, where he's like, hey, I'm telling you, if you guys go anywhere else, it's not going to be like this. It's not. Do you see how I used our remaining scholarships? I didn't just crush the transfer portal and bring in any old Tom, Dick, and Harry. Or Jane, Janet, and Jill, wherever you're at in 2023, right? I kid because I care. Maybe it is like that. It's kind of Andrew's example when he talked about the dorms, right? Where I was like, I just looked at it as a job. It was so hard, the two-a-days. You had to be on, and it was so competitive. We couldn't wait to get home to take a nap in our own bed and then come back and go to work again. And he said, you know what? I never looked at it like work. I looked at it like I want to be with my friends and be with like-minded people, so I would embrace the dorms. Food for thought. Didn't look at it like that. Much like I didn't think about the angle of building this thing and telling a story in such a way where family gets the benefit of the doubt. And he may very well be onto something. When you listen to him talk about the reverence he has for his staff and his staff in him, how he talks about his wife, how he talks about his kids, how he wants to be in the community, how you're willing to go to Selleck in the middle of the campus and be a part of something greater than yourself, how you have mat games and you have to pick teams. Maybe it is about family. And maybe the angle is such that where, you know what, this is such a good thing with being with my brothers and sisters here on campus. And some folks that believe in me like the guardians that reared me while I was being recruited. Ooh, it would be really tough to leave. Maybe that is the situation. It's food for thought, something to think about. The college experience is a big decision, and as we heard from the great Jordy Ball, a lot of it has to do with things other than just sports accomplishments. Sometimes we as fans forget about that. Sometimes even as parents, we forget about that. Hey, is he or she in the best situation possible? Hey, is this the best situation for them? Hey, how many guys are they offering at this spot? Hey, how many other pitchers do they have? And meanwhile, we forget. Hey, what if we taught them along the way that they could take with them that has some value, that has some substance? When days get tough, well, what can they fall back on? Maybe that's what they're after. Apple, Google, Spotify, 590 KFOR at 9, however you get us. Make sure you're a part of what we do. It's another episode of Benning Bites.